All right. Peace and greetings, YouTubers. So welcome to another edition of In the News. Man, let me tell you, they're putting me to work at my job. Like, they got me doing some serious work over there. It's crazy because my position has pretty much been repurposed because everybody's working from home now since the centers currently aren't open at the moment. And they have me on all kind of different projects and everything. So there's some nights where I'm not even getting to, finish all of my different tasks and projects and everything like that until 11:45 at night, midnight. Like sometimes I'm working 12-hour days. I'm like, what is this? Gee, crazy. And gosh, and on top of that, the Zoom meetings. A lot of you may be doing the same thing, those meetings on Zoom where it's the giant conference call or the giant meeting, but you're doing it on the webcam with your coworkers and the bosses and everything like that. I'm so sick of Zoom. I don't want to Zoom no more. I really don't. I do not want to Zoom. Like, no more Zooming. I don't want to Zoom. We need to slow down, slow it way down. And the funniest bit is I thought at first, like, okay, we're doing these Zoom meetings. I can just turn the webcam off and, I can lay on the couch under my blanket and I can listen to them talk. And if they call my name for something, I'll hop up over there. Yes, well, I believe that if we have that turned in by Tuesday, we can beat the numbers on, I thought I could do that. No, they're all like, oh, can everybody turn on their webcams? No, man, like my webcam is out of gas. It needs an oil change and the tires need to be rotated. Ain't no webcam, it's out of gas, it ain't working. It's in the shop, it's broke. Like, my goodness, absolutely crazy. Anyway, aside from work, so that's pretty much what I've been doing the last week and a half. I've been trying to readjust my routine so I can get more videos in. It's been a struggle, obviously, but I think I found my pocket. I think so. Let's cross our fingers. But man, yeah, they put me in some serious workloads right now. I miss my children. I miss the loud kids running around the center and teenagers running and breaking up everything and me having to chew everybody out all day. I miss all of that right now because the sitting on these Zoom meetings and the conference calls and the team meetings and everything else, and then you getting emails at 10:30 p.m. I'm like, dang, man, I'm trying to eat. Leave me alone. But that's that. Then it's also crazy because with everything happening, with the stay-at-home orders and the quarantines, I was supposed to be in LA today because my grandfather turned 86. And of course, one of the things I've been doing in the past few years is always making sure I make an effort to go and visit my grandfather at least once a year, sometimes twice if I can do it. And so this year, my plan was to fly out there, surprise him on his birthday, because I went to LA last August before I went to Vegas, and I surprised him then. I didn't tell him I was coming. I just showed up. It was like a great surprise. So I wanted to do that again for his birthday. And of course, those plans fell through. I think I talked about it on the live before, but I did kind of tell his wife, and I told him ahead of time, like, yeah, I was going to come, but with everything happening, it is what it is. And I'm super protective of my grandfather because he's the closest thing I have to my father, because that was my father's father. And so it was funny because some of the great-grands and the great-great-grands on his side, they wanted to have like a party and stuff. I was like, no parties. I don't need y'all killing my grandfather, especially since over there at Huntington Beach and everywhere else, everybody's just out and about. Nope, I don't know what y'all bringing to my grandpa. And so what my grandfather ended up doing was he literally got tape and put X's on the floor around the house. But all the X's were, 6 or 7 or 8 feet apart. And then all the great and great-great-grands, because they're all like 2 and 3 and 4, they all had to go and sit on an X. And on each X, there was a popsicle, there was a Capri Sun, there might have been a pack of crackers or something like that. And the kids had to just stay on the X and say, happy birthday, Grandpa, we love you. Whatever gifts they had, it was already wiped down and sprayed and everything like that. And then his wife was like, I'm going to just sit it on the counter for a few days, make sure the germs die, and then we'll give you the gifts and everything like that. Everybody's just being super, super careful because my grandfather's 86. His wife is also 86. So it's like, yeah, it's crazy, man. It's absolutely crazy. It's weird. I will be happy when this kind of, slows and we can kind of get back to, well, not even get back because I don't think life will be the same, but get to whatever our new norm is that makes sense, where we actually have, the access to go and do things that we'd like to do. I'll be happy to get to that state in life. Like, I want to go and visit my mama because I'd be worried about her because, she lives over there in Atlanta and Georgia. I don't know what y'all doing over there either. I'm like, okay, it's getting a little wild over here. I mean, for me, that's pretty much what I've been up to, just working, and yeah, it's been a lot. But I've been well, so I don't have any complaints. Plus, I guess I'm my own great company, so I'm not even like losing my mind because I haven't been around people too often. I'm good on that. But anyway, moving on. I didn't get to talk about it because I didn't make a video last week, but I did get to see round 2 of the Teddy and Babyface, showcase. I really enjoyed it. I thought they both did, phenomenal with what it was that they put out there. They have so many hits that they couldn't even get to everything. That's how good it was. Especially when Babyface pulled out that guitar. I said, you clean on that one. You clean. Okay. But it was really good. And it was crazy because there were so many songs they didn't even get to. And I see that Babyface is going to be doing a Mother's Day edition where he's going to showcase the Waiting to Excel soundtrack, because I don't think he showcased any of the songs from that one, or he played Count on Me at the very, very end. But you know, that whole album, like literally every song is a gem. So you know, that'd be cool to see that. I watched the gospel one, the one with Hezekiah Walker and John P. Key. You know, as a kid who grew up, you know, in the church, we played a lot of gospel in the car. Like, well, actually, to be honest, in my mother's car, until recently, the only thing she ever played in the car was gospel. And sometimes Whitney Houston, The Bodyguard. And then she would stop the album after the Whitney songs ended and she'd start it back over. So I never even heard the second half of the album for years. But, you know, it was always gospel. But she used to stay playing Hezekiah Walker's By Any Means Necessary album. Like, that album knocked. Even I love that album. And so I was always a big Hezekiah Walker fan. With that album, there was one song I didn't like, though. There was a song called... Oh, true story. I'm going to tell the story real quick. There was a song called Come Unto Me. And it's like this slower song. And it's this song with this woman who sings. And it's really, you know, operatic style vocal. It's like in her falsetto. And she sings it. Like, it's funny because I appreciate the song now. Because there's, you know, there's... what I want to say? I can't even get the word out of my head. Y'all know what I'm talking about. But the nostalgia. There's a nostalgia with the song. But... back then I couldn't stand the song and I would always want my mom to skip it. But when she drives, because she's a very paranoid driver, like she's like this, her eyes are on the road, she's not going to be looking nowhere. If she has to change the window settings, she's going to reach and not look. If she has to change the music, she's going to reach and not look. She doesn't like moving off this steering wheel. And so the song would come on when I was little and I used to beg her to change the song and she would never do it. And so what I would do, and I'd only do this if I was sitting directly behind her, because I knew if I was sitting in the passenger seat in the back, you know, she could reach back there. But if I'm directly behind her, it's hard to get over there. So the song would come on. I would ask her to skip it. And my mother does this thing where sometimes she just acts like she doesn't hear anything you say. And she doesn't even say no. She ain't heard nothing. Mom, can you change the song? Mom, can you change the song? Mom, can you change the song? And she's just... So I would sing the song and mimic the lady on purpose and sing it as loud as I could. And so the woman would be doing this little opera thing and then, I heard the voice. And I'd be doing the same thing she was doing. Oh, Jesus, sing. And I'd be in that backseat going in on that song. And it would piss my mom off. So she finally skipped the song. But man, when we would get to a red light or anywhere where the car could stop, she'd put that car in park. Did I tell you to stop? Oh, you don't do that. What's wrong with you? Like, she would be so mad. It's so funny looking back because I feel like the roles of my mother and I have shifted. Now I'm the one that's always nagging her about everything because I've been chewing her out to quit trying to go out and go places. I'm like, you need to stay home, man. You my last living parent. Stay in the house. I ain't got time. And then on May 9th, they're going to have the next round of verses, and it's going to be Erykah Badu and Jill Scott. And that's going to be a good one to see. By the way, I keep seeing a lot of people saying, like, I don't like us pitting them against each other, all the different artists, whether it's Teddy and Babyface or T-Pain and Lil Jon and so on and so forth. Again, I look at it as more so just a celebratory showcase. Let's showcase what these people have been able to do over the last 10, 20, 30, 40 years, however long they've been in the industry. It's a celebration, in my opinion, and it's a great way for people to take their minds off of everything that's happening with all the chaos outside of the house. So I don't look at it as pitting anybody against each other and trying to take away somebody else's artistry and their legacy or their contribution to music. It's more so just a celebration. But anyway, Erykah and Jill will be a good one. I don't know how you even how do you even compare some of them projects? Especially like the first 3 albums or the first 3 studio albums by both artists are like, I think most of the gems in their catalogs are on the first 3 albums by both of them. With Erykah, you have Baduism, you have Worldwide Underground, and you have Mama's Gun. And I mean, there's some great ones on both, or on all 3 albums. And then with Jill Scott, you got, who was Jill Scott? You got Beautifully Human, you have The Real Thing. I mean, gee, those are some great songs on both projects. If I were to pick what I think they will nominate as their top song, for Erykah, my money is on Next Lifetime or Bag Lady. But Erykah's also very different, and she's on her own wave all the time, so she might pick some song ain't none of us even heard before, and that'd be her top one, and then she'd just turn the thing off and not even say goodnight. With Jill, my money... A Long Walk has to be one of them. I know for sure. That's the go-to. There's no if, answer, but. The other one, I guess, my money would be on He Loves Me or Is It The Way? But again, they both have so many gems. That's gonna be a hard one, but that's gonna be a fun watch. And again, these are what I call like my boiling greens artists, like people like Jill Scott, Erykah Badu, D'Angelo, Amp Fiddler, India Ari, Lettucey. Raphael Sadiq has transitioned into that role as well. Eric Benet, all of the neo soul acts. To me, they're like the Green Boilers. I just feel like if I go to their house, I know they got a pot of greens on the stove somewhere in that house. I just know. Like, and in addition, they probably have the beads hanging from the kitchen doorway too. Remember them beads they used to hang? Like, for people, they used to have it in the 70s and the 80s, and some people still had it in the 90s. Those beads would just be hanging from the door, and they'd always get mad because all the little kids would run and play with them and pop one down every now and then. I know they got some beads hanging, but I just know they got some pots of greens up in their house. And between Erykah and Jill, I think Jill would make the better pot of greens, just because I think Erykah is on her own wave, where I think Erykah's at a point where she wouldn't even put seasoning in hers. Like, she would literally just put greens and water in the pot because she could just appreciate the natural flavors with nothing else. You don't need no neck bone, no fat back, none of that stuff in it, just greens and water. All right? Might not even rinse them off. All right? Let the dirt float at the top. Be like them greens Reby Jackson made in that Jackson 5 movie. At least the cornbread came out good, mother. Like, I'm being so silly, man. Anyway, let's move on to some actual stories. So this next story, I didn't even really want to talk about because one, I just think it's stupid. And then two, I was like, man, I'm going to lose a good 6 or 7 brain cells on this one. But I saw the story initially trending earlier in the week, or maybe even last week. And I figured it was just people trolling around. But then I noticed that people were actually serious and endorsing what it was that was being said. And I'm just like, are you serious? And then the final nail in the coffin was like, enough of you started blowing up my social media because of the obvious. And we're like, are you going to say something? I'm like, fine, I guess we'll talk about it. So here we go. This post was made some days ago, and then somebody else endorsed it, and then that post went viral as well. But the post says, "Dear millennials, stop saying Karen. Karen is a sexist and racist term equivalent to the N-word for white women. Calling a woman Karen is an attempt to get rid of women's rights to stand up for themselves." And then, so I'm already like, just... But then there's more, because then there's somebody who endorses this post, and then that post goes viral, and it says, "I demand absolute censorship of the K-word on Twitter. If my demands are not met, me and millions of other women will delete their accounts. The attack on innocent white women has to stop. Twitter has become a platform for incels." Like, listen. Okay, so one, Karen is not a racial slur at all. There is no systematic oppressions behind the name Karen. So there's that. And secondly, can we come to this bit with the calling woman Karen is an attempt to get rid of women's rights to stand up for themselves. First of all, white women, I'm sorry, collectively, y'all showed us where y'all stand with what you want for yourselves after the last election. All right, that 53% in y'all camp, y'all don't even know what y'all want. Half of y'all are on one trip, the other half is on another. So y'all get that together before you ever try to open your mouth to say what I need to do in order to make sure that you are not oppressed. Because secondly, the other beef I have is there's too many people in that collective who want to be privileged and oppressed at the same time. You can't have both. It doesn't work that way. Or you can't be oppressed enough to be privileged enough to go and tell somebody else what's oppressing you when you're still oppressing everybody else. Like, get out of here. And thirdly, yo, my mama's name is Karen. Like, what the what? So what am I supposed to call my mama? KJ? Just add a J at the end. Like when somebody get a nickname, you know, you get Jedediah, you go to JJ. KJ, how you doing? First of all, and the other bit is like, you've literally centered yourself around everything and taken ownership of something that wasn't initially yours so you can claim it as your own struggle. In the meantime, you literally oppress everybody else who has that same name because you've taken away their voice and created one for yourself, and now your voice will be the standard of what it is for anybody who has the name Karen, and you've taken ownership of that because you think that that's the privilege that you have over everything. Foolishness. Like, this is the stupidest thing. And I'm also tired of everybody equating everything to the N-word. That's the other bit. You know what I mean? Like, I get tired of people trying to compare struggles to others. Like, one thing I've learned over the years is that no struggle is comparable because they're all on a different spectrum. I even had to learn that, like, even within the conversations within the black diaspora, within the black collective, when we talk amongst gender, I had to teach myself that, you know, with the struggles that black men have and black women have, there are struggles that are different. And there are struggles that exist, but they're not comparable because they're on different spectrums. And at the end of the day, they're all under the umbrella of white supremacy. And so that's where the conversation is. So I had to learn that. So sometimes I look back at some of the videos I've made. I'm like, dang, man, I was on one with that one. What was I thinking? And so I'm like, I should go back and take that down. But like, literally, the struggles are not comparable. So like, one, I take offense to anybody who ever compares anything to any kind of oppression that has happened to black people as a collective. Because at the end of the day, there has been nothing, not a single thing in this country that has been worse than what has happened to black people. The only other conversation that you can have is what has happened to the Native Americans. But again, those experiences are not comparable. They can be on different spectrums and they can sit at the same table maybe, but it's not the same content at all. But again, going and equating something to the N-word or equating something to slavery, that means you know that at the end of the day, the standard for oppression, the standard for racism, the standard for any kind of disproportionate oppressions that affect a different group of people or disadvantage a group of people, you know that, again, it's rooted in anti-blackness, and that's the top tier standard for any kind of oppression, and that there's no other oppression that has been worse yet. Like, that's what you're stating. When there are different groups of people who have some kind of struggle and they try to equate it to something is the new black, or this is like what happened with black folks, or when people want black folks to ride with them, well, you know, this is what happened, you guys went through this, and now this is our civil rights movement. No, it's not. It's not. You got something, it's some other stuff. You want some other stuff. You know what I mean? And so stop comparing everything to like the black struggle. I just think that is some foolery on its own. Like, get out of here. This is just the dumbest crap. What else did they say? Innocent. Okay. I still think this is like a troll account. I think both of these posts are by somebody who's joking around, but I just saw so many people like flock on it and literally take it serious and run with it. I'm like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Jeez. Yeah. Okay. Y'all didn't have all the energy in 2016. And again, when you see the voting patterns, you continue to vote and put into office all kind of politicians who are anti, abortion, anti violence against women's act, anti all kind, everything, anything you think of. It's a whole plethora of politicians that y'all have put in office that work to oppress you as white women. And you stay with it. Why? Because most of y'all vote as households anyway. As long as your husband's good, you're good. So I'm not doing it. Sorry, can't. Absolute foolishness. Karen. I thought it was Becky, at least. When I made the barbecue Becky video, everybody was, Becky is a racial slur. Don't say Becky. Now it's evolved into Karen. Y'all don't even have your minds made up. Is it Becky or is it Karen? Like, my goodness. Wait, hold on. I was just playing. And one more thing while we're at it. The other bit that I find so funny is people will sit there and break their necks to say slavery was however many years ago, y'all need to get over it. Jim Crow was this many years ago, y'all need to get over it. Pull yourself up by the bootstrap, blah, 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 blah. But the minute folks got some kind of issue or some kind of setback, the first thing they want to do is bring up all the things that happen to black people. All of a sudden, that conversation is relevant again. As if those issues still aren't happening to black people in the long term anyway. As if the residual effects are still not affecting the black community. As if that doesn't play a role into the wealth gap and everything else. It's so funny. They will dismiss any kind of black oppression when it deals with black folks. But when they can compare it to whiteness, when they can compare it to some kind of struggle that they're fighting for, some kind of cause that they believe in, and do it at the expense of black people, then they're willing to bring it up real quick. I ain't got time. Okay, now I'm moving on for real. And then in regards to everything happening in relation to COVID-19, now you're seeing what I call the worst in people really come out. And it's crazy because I still don't even think as a country we've even seen the worst of it. And people have already lost their minds, especially when it comes to like not wanting to obey the stay-at-home orders. And I think a lot of the states are very foolish for opening this early, especially because most of the states that are opening and reopening have not even hit their peak. Like their curve or whatever you want to call it didn't even flatten. They're already trying to open up stuff. Georgia, I just had to look at sideways. I was like, bowling alleys? I mean, a bowling alley, you got to literally touch everything. You got to put your hands on the ball. You got to set up the game and set up the timer and everything like that. Like, you literally touch everything in a bowling alley. I was like, that's probably the last thing that should have been open. But, it is what it is. We're going to see. Watch. You're going to see an increase in numbers in Georgia real soon. I'm like, this is crazy. And then you see people just gathering in these large groups. They're not even trying anymore. Like, I understand people not wanting to be in the house. But I think you have to just, at the same time, there has to be consideration for everybody else. And I know this is a very individualistic type of country where it's me for myself and it is what it is. That's what it's going to be. That's what America has showed you recently. And I think for people who work in the healthcare fields, I'd be pissed off. If I was a respiratory therapist or a nurse or a doctor, I'd be livid. Like, y'all are making my job even more intense. And some people are going to say, well, that's their job. That's what they're supposed to do. But depending on the region or the city that these people live in, some of these hospitals, like I said in the last video, are so overwhelmed. I mean, you got people in the hallways because there's not enough beds. You got people being sent home because the hospitals have to make a choice between who's worth treating and who's not. And unfortunately, depending on how you look and how much you have and where you come from, a lot of people are being sent home. This is just something where I think it's extremely selfish to go and gather in these large gatherings of thousands of people just because you're trying to make a political statement. No, you're just stupid. Like, I don't understand. And again, even for me, I have a lot of family members who work in this field. So it's like, when y'all going to do that foolishness, you're putting my people in danger. And all they want to do is come home to their families. And I don't think it's fair to them when you think of all the nurses and doctors and people who have died. And in addition to that, just what they've had to see. A lot of them are going to have to be in all kind of therapy when this is over for all of the death and all of the hardship that they've had to see and the overextension of hours and literally you have to think about the fact that this has really been going on, like as far as it being just straight chaos, at least since probably the end of February going into March. And so for some people, the last month and a half, the last 2 months, all they've known is chaos. All they've known is death. All they've known is sickness. All they've known is being on high alert all day. They don't get to come down. And we know that people who work in the medical field, they don't have just a regular 9-to-5 schedule. A lot of them can be called in anytime. So it's like that sense of serenity within what would be their norm or their societal norm. All of that has been shaken up. And so I'm like, there's no consideration for any of that. So when I saw the Huntington Beach bit and I saw all the people on the beach, I'm like, I understand the beaches. I almost get it, but it's like, if you're gonna go to the beach, why are y'all all bunched up together? It's like y'all are not even like spreading out. Because I feel like, again, the U.S. has had a very relaxed approach. It was pretty much, can y'all stay in the house and really only go out if you have to, please. That would be so great. And it doesn't help that the leadership is not all on the same page. And as soon as the stay-at-home orders kicked in, then you got Cuckoo Man up top. You need to free Virginia and free Michigan. And of course, that sends his minions running around. And now all of them out here with guns protesting. And I'm like, that's the other bit I'm confused at. Like, one, if we're talking about what is it that you're protesting, a lot of them don't even really know what they're protesting. They just want to be out there because they want to be mad, as usual. Always mad about everything, all the time. And the part that I find funny is, when I think back to the inauguration, and even when I think back to the campaign trail and what the current president was saying, the first thing first thing Orange Man said at inauguration when all 6 of y'all was out there, law and order, and everybody, yeah, okay, well, here's the law and order, so go on and sit in the house like they told you to. Now all of a sudden my liberties are being taken away, I'm not free, blah 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 blah. I'm like, this is what y'all voted for, this is what law and order, now it's being implemented, you got a problem with it. And again, I think that's because collectively white people have never had to listen to anybody. They get to do whatever they want whenever they want, all the time. It's always been that way. Because what you're also seeing is, you're seeing some neighborhoods be heavily policed. Even in DC right now, Ward 8, the mayor was catching a lot of flack because it was like, why is there such a heavy police presence in Ward 8? But it's not the same thing everywhere else. Like, even today, I was laying on my couch and I just hear this loud noise. I'm like, what is that? And so I didn't know that they were going to have the Navy Blue Angels and the Air Force Thunderbirds flying over. And that was supposed to be the way to say thank you to all of the healthcare workers. Even though I'm like, I don't know if that's the best idea. I mean, it's not like the people can stop, with the patient who's flatlining and run to the window to see the planes, like, I guess. But anyway, that crap was so loud. I'm like, are we being attacked or some crap? But like, DC is definitely a target city for like a terrorist attack. So I just had to get up and look like, what's going on? And then like literally over by Arlington Cemetery, you had just a flock of people just out there ready to see. I'm like, I didn't see no police over there telling them to break it up. So you're seeing the discrepancies. I saw that post with the West Village over in New York, where it's just been people just in massive just groups just out there chilling. And of course, you go to Harlem or you go to some of the other regions where there's different groups of people that live, and everything is locked down and police presence heavy. And I'm just like, again, you're seeing the disparities, but I find it so crazy that they're out here doing all this protesting, and it's like, y'all aren't even protesting for anything. You don't know what you want. If you were going to protest for something that at least would lead to a better solution. Opening up everything as much as all of us want it is not going to fix what's happening, or not even remedy what's going to happen. You know what I mean? You're about to see a second wave hit earlier than what they thought would be. They were thinking maybe in the winter there will be a second wave that comes. I think we're about to hit the crap before we even get to the summer, because folks want to be hard-headed. So it's just like, it's very just like, what, you don't know what you're fighting for. If you want to fight for something, they should have been protesting, saying, okay, rent and mortgages, that's what's affecting a lot of people. That's for all the people who've lost their jobs or who've been furloughed or whatever else, or laid off. Rent and mortgages, that's something to protest, because that's something that actually remedies everything. Because literally, maybe not everything, but it remedies a lot. It makes things easier for the people who are most affected by all this. I know there's a lot of sympathy and empathy for all the super, super rich people and everything. Real talk, a lot of them gonna be all right. Because just look at the stock market. You would think that the stock market would have just crashed all the way and never recovered. And it's already back up to the 23,000, 24,000 level in the middle of all this chaos. Rich people are gonna be just fine, most of them. But like, if you're gonna protest about something, or protest, hey, the hospitals need more ventilators, or hey, there needs to be more tests out there, or hey, spend more money for research so that we can get a cure or a remedy or a vaccine, whatever it is. But no, y'all want to be out here protesting, and they're out there saying anything. I saw the sign that said, wearing a mask is equivalent to slavery. here we go with this comparison again. What are you talking about? Like, y'all are just loony, man. And the piece that still gets me is just the guns. I'm like, I don't get the guns. Y'all show up with guns to everything. All the time. Anytime there's a rally, here comes the guns. I'm like, this is not a Second Amendment violation, anything. Why the guns? Why? I don't get it. It's like there's this obsession with wanting to be like these action heroes. Like, y'all, they are so pressed for something to go down so they get the opportunity to shoot somebody. And I'm like, even when you had the opportunity, y'all can't even do it right. Remember there was that biker shootout in Waco, and it was like 200 people, just all night, all day, and then 9 people died. I was like, that's like 4% accuracy. Okay. I mean, I'm not trying to encourage people to go and do violent things, but 200 of y'all shooting and only 9 people, and I mean, it was rounds upon rounds. I mean, they had buckets full of the shells that they had to throw away because that's how many people got shot or shot at. And it's like, y'all can't even do that, right? If you want to shoot somebody so bad, join the military. Because I guarantee you, most of the people out there who are walking around with all these guns and everything, they're not in the military, because if the military found out that was them, there's all kind of Article 15s and dishonorable discharges to be handed out. So you know it's not them. It's all these people who are on top of it. It's always the most out of shape, knock-kneed, one leg longer than the other, and they're the main ones out there. Helmets and bulletproof vests and walking weeks. Like, what are y'all doing? Y'all look just foolish. And then you bring your kids out there with it. You're bringing your 6 and your 7-year-old out there, teaching them all that foolishness, teaching them all that verbiage and everything. Because really, what I've seen, these protests aren't even rooted in anything. I just see a lot of racist stuff. I've seen all kind of Hitler signs and just anything crazy. They cussing out Obama up. I'm like, Obama's at home. He ain't thinking about y'all right now. Like, just cussing out anybody and everything about anything just to be mad. And so then, you bring your kids out there with all that, and then y'all get mad when your kids go to school and get beat up because they done said the wrong thing to the wrong crowd, and then fast forward 10 years, they want to shoot up everything as well. Like, it's just, it's crazy. And it's funny, the bit that I remember with the guns is, it's all about, the Second Amendment and everything else like that. But I just think back to 67 with the Black Panthers, and when they literally did the same thing, and Reagan was like, oh no, this is too much. Y'all can't bring guns into like state buildings. And then the Mulford Law was signed in 67, which prevented that. But I'm looking at, what's happening in Michigan, and I'm like, they're walking up into the state capitol with guns and everything. I'm like, where's the police? Because if that was me, if that was me and my people, the way we would have been laid out on the sidewalk and spread and put into the white little bags and zipped up, like, it's crazy the privilege that kicks in. Because that's the other thing, like, white folks can do whatever they want anyway. You know what I mean? That's why I always say, like, struggles are not even comparable. Or there's no comparison, because, like, at the end of the day, like, when white men go and do all this stuff, the narrative is, oh, boys will be boys. That's why they can run around with guns and do whatever they want and point guns into the faces of people at the Capitol and nothing happens. I do the same thing. It's like, boy, what are you doing? You lost your mind, and then, you know what happens next. It's crazy. And the other bit, it's so funny that now the narrative is, oh, well, people are just going to die. It is what it is. But I'm like, what happened to all the All Lives Matter crowd? Like, just a few years ago, it was All Lives Matter. Anytime black people protested about anything in relation to police brutality, y'all couldn't wait to run out there and it's All Lives Matter. You're taking away my heritage and my life, and this is da-da-da, and this is my right, and you people are da-da-da-da-da-da. Now all of a sudden it's, well, people are going to die. It is what it is. I'm like, okay, you know what? Have that same energy, because when half of y'all catch this stuff, I want the hospitals to tell y'all the same thing. Well, it is what it is. So go on home, take some Robitussin and sit down somewhere. You'll be all right. Like, come on. Y'all were the main ones protesting about law and order because Trump was going to do it. He was going to fix it, blah, 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 blah. Now the law's been laid out. You don't want it. It's funny. Like, again, when you've been in a position where you've never had to abide by any kind of law or any kind of rules, and you've always been able to skate by on everything, now that is being challenged, you don't even know how to handle it. Just crazy. Just stupid. Just so stupid. Stupid is my word for the day. I just can't get past the guns part. Like, I feel like violence is just embedded in some people. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like a lot of them, if they could, they would take guns to heaven. All right? They'd be in the lines waiting to get in, seeing if their name is on the list. If their name ain't on the list or they don't hear what they want to hear, they probably spray all the angels too. Everybody gonna catch it. And then knowing them, since they can't get in, they're going to turn around and spray everybody else behind them. Just, jeez. Anyway, moving on. Did you guys see the story about the state of Georgia, again, where pretty much teenagers will be allowed to get their driver's license without taking the drive test because of the coronavirus? And so the governor, Brian Kemp, went ahead and signed some order where pretty much, the teens can go and they can get their driver's license as long as they have completed the initial hours that were required for whatever it was with their permit, and that they have parent permission. Best wishes to y'all over there. I would not want to be on the road with that. No disrespect, teenagers. I'm just saying, like, teenagers are not great drivers in the beginning. I don't think anybody is when they first learn how to drive. And then I just think of every time I go to visit my mom in Atlanta, and I can't think of what freeway it is. I don't know if that's 95 or what that is, but like there's one freeway where it's like you're going into downtown, and there's literally like 8 or 9 lanes because it's like 2 or 3 freeways that are branching out. I just can't imagine a 16-year-old merging across all of that to get to that other side. I can't see it. I can't see it. I hope everybody's safe because, man, I think back to my teenage years driving, it took me a minute to get into my good pocket. If you've ever heard my podcast episode, I always thought the funniest episode I ever made was the one learning how to drive. Like, that crap is wild. And I hit somebody with my car. Well, I didn't hit them. They actually walked into my car. Like, my mirror hit their elbow and their arm swung around, and I freaked out and just and took off. Like, I just got this car and this license. F that. And so if they're anything like myself at that age, now the person was fine. He ain't dead or nothing. But and I was going like 6 miles an hour. It was in a parking lot. It was years ago. I was like 16. But anyway, I don't know why I just told that. But anyway, just thinking back, I hope people are really safe with that. Like that's some wild stuff there. Like, man, whew. And this is the era of social media clout and people doing pranks and everything. And all right, Georgia, y'all trying to turn into Diet Florida now. I don't know what's going on with y'all, but all right. Might have to reevaluate some decisions I was thinking about making. My goodness. So with this next story, I just want to have a quick conversation. So let me read the post. This is from an individual who graduated from law school. Young black man graduates from law school. And so what should have been like a congratulations, let's celebrate, it kind of turns into something that goes a little left field. So let me read the post first because he had a whole lot to say. All right. Now that I'm JD'd, bar number loading, I've entered into a new arena of black men. And in this arena, I'm the prize now. Don't just take my word for it, though. And before you kill me in the comments, let me drop some stats for your you-know-what right quick so you can see my point. Black women outnumber black men by 2 million. Black women don't want to deal with a black man who's gay, down low, has baby mama drama, or has a felony conviction record or in jail, which collectively is a large percentage of our race. Unfortunately, as statistically 37% of black men are in jail, while 1/3 of black men have some form of a criminal record. Black women typically don't want to date down and prefer to have black men that is on the same playing field as her or higher. Well, statistically, only 7% of black men are professionals. With this massive criteria that black women don't want he typed this all weird. It ain't my reading, it's his writing. With this massive criteria that black women don't want basically, with this massive criteria that black women don't want when dating black men, that N shouldn't have been there, or dating a black man, they have essentially drastically limited the dating pool of viable black men that majority of black women are currently after, which means everyone doesn't get picked, and statistically, 70% of black women go unmarried. You see where I'm going here? Nah, man. Additionally, black women want their mate to be attractive, have some form of edge, style, to be exciting and not be lame, etc. I know all of that is subjective, but everyone doesn't have these, so those are called X factors, which lowers the number of viable black men even lower. Hey, this is some writing here, and this is law school? Okay. So with me now, gaining access into this very small percentage of black men that are young. For the record, I'm under 30 with 2 degrees, single and attractive, are heterosexual, have no criminal record, no baby mama drama, and have some form of high-paying career potential that majority of black women are competing against each other for. You tell me, who's the real prize here? I don't know where here. Okay, that's some writing there. You're gonna have to fix that grammar, sir. You got me sounding illiterate trying to read that. Here's my 2 cents. So 4 things. By the way, I don't know how long this video is going to be. It's just going to go until I'm tired of talking. Because real talk, we didn't have a video last week anyway. So boom, it's 2 for 1 special right now. But 4 things. 1, yes, congratulations. Great accomplishment, great milestone. Yes, you are one of the few that has been able to make such a great accomplishment. Wonderful. But with that same thought, I've always said in instances like this, there's always 3 kinds of people. And in relation to people within the black collective, because that's what I'm centering this around. Because again, a lot of my videos, anybody can watch, but a lot of the conversations are directed to me and mine. That's all it is. You know what I mean? But you can still watch and learn something as well. There's always 1 of 3 people in a situation like this, especially with black people who get into, an opportunity that becomes super great, or they hit a milestone or an accomplishment. Person one is the person who they get that opportunity, or they hit the milestone, they hit the achievement, they get the accolade, and they take it, they do what they need to do with it, they live their life, raise their family, boom, they mind their business, they're chilling, they're good. There's that person. Person two is the person who's a bit more community oriented. They're going to use this gift that they have, or this tool that they have, or this access that they now have, and they're going to use it to go and build. I went to law school because I want to be a public defender. I feel like people, often don't get fair representation in the courtroom because of how much money they have, or this, that, and third. So I want to be that representation, and I want to do a good job, because I've seen too many stories where there's somebody whose public defender didn't even know their name, but already told them to sign the paper and just admit that they're guilty so they can go home in 3 months. So I want to do that. Or I want to be an entertainment lawyer because there's too many black people in the music business or in Hollywood that get screwed over by their agents or their contracts or their record labels. I want to show them the way of how to protect themselves and make sure that they can build wealth so that their children have it. I want to use my degree to go and build this. I want to start an organization. I want to start this nonprofit. That's person number two. Okay. And then there's person number three, who is, yes, I got this accomplishment because I'm the greatest at everything, and everybody should bow down to me because I am the exceptional Negro. And I know that Booker T had the whole thing about the talented 10th, but I'm the talented one. So boom, get like me. The rest of y'all wish you could be me. Bunch of haters hating on my game. What's up? All right, ladies, what y'all want to do? There's that person. And so I think what just kind of threw me off with all of this, and I'm not going to kick this guy while he's down. I'm just going to say my 2 cents and be on my merry way. I just found it very interesting that, you go through something as vigorous as law school, because everybody knows law school is that's some serious stress and sleeping and everything. I've seen many people go to law school and change their mind and say, this is not for me. Because one, I think law is already a difficult field to work in. But, after you go through all of that and you make it. And the first thing that comes to your mind, is more so, never mind the hard work and all that. It's more so, okay, now that I made it, ladies, what's up? I'm the prized possession. And the part that made me laugh was even a bit where he was like, when he was going down the list of all the things that are wrong with the black male collective, and even when he said, I'm attractive too, because that ladies want that. He was like, so that also kicks people out of the pool. I'm like, geez, okay, man. All right, then, I'm this and I'm that. And so I just found it interesting that would be the first thing that came to his mind, because I just know when I came out of school, I was so happy because I was the first one. At least in the immediate family, like my parents never got that opportunity. So for me, I was like, I'm happy that, my parents were able to open a door and I was able to go through it. Or I'm happy that my family, and they were able to pave that lane and I was able to drive in it, so that when it's my time or my children or whatever else, they go even further. Like, that's the way society's supposed to work. Not, I didn't go in and be like, yep, daddy, in your face. What's up, Joe? Yeah, you should have went to, really? And so I think that the issue I have going into part number 2 is, the most disturbing bit is that he kept bringing up the crime statistics, and I'm like, you can't use the end result of something that has a darker origin as a weapon against people who are the victims of that system. You know that this judicial system and the prison industrial complex is pretty much created and crafted to pretty much incarcerate black men. We know that 1 in 3 black men have a chance of being in prison by the age of 50. But at the same time, you also know that 94% of people who take a plea, or 94% of people who have been convicted of a felony on a state level took a plea deal. You know that 97% of people who've been convicted of a felony on a federal level took a plea deal. Plea deal does not equate to always being guilty. We know that a lot of people take a plea deal because the risk of going to trial and being found guilty is heavier than going and possibly, taking that chance of being found not guilty, even if they didn't do it, especially if people don't have money to represent themselves properly in the courtroom. So I think using the fact that 34% of black men are in prison, I think that's a very white lens to look through, especially as a black man who just came out of an HBCU. For law school. Really? That's what we're doing? Okay. So I saw that as a problem. And I also think that as a black person, if you are using anything that's structurally set up to work against black people as a weapon against them for why they're in the position they're in because you were one of the exceptions, then you're in the way. You're just as bad as the next white person that is trying to step, or when I say white person, I'm speaking of somebody who endorses the idea of white supremacy, or who endorses the idea of keeping other groups of people pushed out so that they can only be at the top. Kind of like when we Toni Morrison had that quote, like, if you're only tall because the other person's on your knees, then it's a serious problem. Same thing. So if that's your viewpoint and that's your perspective and that's all you can get out of coming out of law school is that pretty much you're better than other black people, then you're in the way. Really, you're just as bad as somebody else who's working to oppress black people. And so I would be concerned if you were my lawyer, because I feel that you don't see me as an individual person who actually still has liberties and has rights. And, you know, because it comes off very judgmental, like, because I now have this degree, I'm up here above the rest of you. All of that is just finance. All of that is economics. That doesn't have anything to do with actual character. You know what I mean? Because there's a lot of foolish people running around here with all kind of degrees. There's a lot of foolish people running around here in top tier positions. Doesn't mean they're the smartest in the bunch. Some of the biggest intellectuals that we look up to never had a degree, never even went to school. They went to street school. They went to life school. Because in reality, your education really, in addition to what you get in a structured, you know, academic environment, or as you get the terminal degrees and everything else like that, the additional education that everybody gets is life and the experiences and living. Like when I think back to when I came out of Howard, I was such an idiot at that time. But you couldn't tell me anything. I thought I was God's gift to man, and then life hit and taught me a bunch of lessons. Like looking back, I feel like my experience in undergrad, it was almost like the seed was planted, but it didn't sprout until I got much older. But at the time when I came out, I thought I was, the flowers have bloomed, man. Put me on display at the planetarium or wherever else. There were botanical gardens, put me on display because I'm the one. But, you know, I feel like all that didn't bloom until years later when stuff started to make sense. And so I just feel like for him, he would have to do better. And I think, again, when I talked about that lens, that goes into my third point when you talk about the double consciousness. W.e.b. Du Bois talks about that, where like specifically with black people, you have two levels of consciousness that exist, all right? Because you know that as a black person, in order to safely matriculate through society, you have to see through the lens of how white people see everything, to understand how they operate and to understand how the country operates, how society operates, and how you can survive through that process. And your other lens of consciousness is the black one. Like when we're brought up, you're raised in a society of white supremacy. You're raised to always think that anything you do is inferior, whether it comes through the media, entertainment, the laws, what's taught in school. Everything you're taught about yourself is taught to you as it being backwards. And so when all of us are born, if you didn't have parents to really instill in you, you know, all of the different things that they should teach you as a black child, and they didn't break their necks to, you know, seam rip anything that is anti-black, then that means as a child coming up, that white lens or that consciousness is way up here. The black consciousness, which is the consciousness that seam rips all of that and also empowers you and helps you to understand your plight through the lens that you see the world based on association with blackness and not proximity to whiteness. That lens climbs as you get older and as you develop your own viewpoints of the world and how you learn and as you read and everything else like that. But if you never elevate this consciousness, this one always stays up here and you always look up to this. And when I say look up to this, that means this becomes the standard. This becomes what you aspire to be. And rather than coming up to build your own thing, you measure your success and you measure who you are by how close you can get to the top. Proximity to whiteness, assimilation. That's what that is. That black consciousness should have nothing to do with this here. This is that consciousness that you build within yourself and your own collective on how you see the world. The minute you can see the world through your own lens and recognize the world through a lens that is not centered around whiteness, that's when you've had a balance of your double consciousness where you can still operate as yourself, but you have the know-how and the skills to also see through this lens to protect yourself, your family, and still be able to matriculate without selling yourself out to try to be closer to this because you've accepted that this is not the standard of how you're supposed to be. And so he has to work on that. I hope I was able to articulate that properly. But like, so his levels are out of whack because he's here, but he personally thinks he's here and he's created another well, let me rephrase this. This is him, right? This is that standard. He's latched on to this, rolled the elevator up, and is now looking back down on this side to the people over here because he thinks he's all of a sudden exceptional. And so that would be something he would have to work on. My brother, you got to do better, all right? Because again, it's like those are the kind of people that lead into bigger problems because let's just say he gets into a position of power and he gets to do whatever with laws. If he doesn't understand the origins of this history collectively, tangibly, structurally, anything, ordinance, laws, everything that's happened in the past, then that means his thinking process, when he comes and puts these laws in, they're going to be coming from this same, I mean these arms right now, they're going to be coming from that same lens on the wrong side of consciousness. And that's how you get somebody like a Ben Carson, or you get a Candace Owens, or you get a Diamond and Silk, or you get a Paris Denard. These are black people who have made these accolades and got whatever they got, but they're looking through a lens of whiteness. And the only time they'll use blackness is to get into the doors. And once they get into the door, they assimilate back into ideals of whiteness and use it against black people as a collective, which is why I have a problem with all of them. And that was also my beef with Kanye as well. I was just like, come on, man, do better. But anyway, and I think Kanye's kind of a different conversation. His is a little bit more complex. He got a lot going on. But again, that's where we're at. And then the last thing I was going to say, point 4, is like, again, like if he's so gung-ho about relationships and everything, your career path and how much you make is just one piece of the pie. A relationship is not going to work if your personality is trash. It doesn't matter how much money you have. Yes, there are people who will marry for wealth and everything else, but those are status marriages. That doesn't mean you're happy. And at the end of the day, half of those end in divorce anyway. And hey, I hope you did a prenup or a postnup. And so again, with relationships, in order for something to work, your personality has to be there. And even the way that he approaches, what's that quote he said? He said, hold on, let me see if I can find it again. The bit that he said, with this massive criteria that black women don't want when dating a black man, they have essentially drastically limited the dating pool of viable black men that majority of black women are currently after, which means everyone doesn't get picked, and statistically 70% of black women go unmarried. You see where I'm going here? And then the piece where he says, so with me now gaining access into this very small percentage of black men that are young, for the record, I'm under 30 with 2 degrees, single and attractive and heterosexual, have no criminal record, no baby mama drama, and have some high form of paying career potential that majority of black women are competing against each other for. You tell me who's the prize here. At this point, you're literally limiting what it is that black women have as their own option, because you're pretty much dictating what it is that they should be dating. You've pretty much delegated yourself to be top tier, and at this point you're letting black women know that they're foolish if they don't choose you. And so you're taking away their own liberties to have their own choice for what it is that they want, literally, because you're pretty much stating that you don't even think black women are intelligent enough to make good decisions with the men that they date, because it's kind of like, listen, I'm all of this, so you need to come on a date with me. I don't even know why you're wasting your time with everybody else, because they ain't none of the, all of them are just terrible, so why are you wasting your time? So who's the prized possession? It's me. So come on, stop playing, get over yourself, and come on in and drop the digits. Like that's how I interpret it. Maybe y'all don't, I don't know. Somebody's gonna be mad about everything I said. It is what it is. But it's kind of like, if you're gonna stereotype your own community to lift yourself up, then bruh, nah, you in the way. So I hope he's able to grow and evolve. I've read some other things about his journey so far with school, but I'm not about to bring all that up and be messy or nothing like that. But I just hope, best wishes to him on that. But and the reason I'm talking about this is specifically because there's so many other people who have that same kind of mindset, and I think you have to break out of that in order to really get to where you want to be in society. Because for me, like, I never really got the opportunity to go to law school or anything like that after undergrad, because I really fell in love with what I do now. I would like to go back to school at some point, but I don't really showboat and broadcast every accolade I've ever had, because if we were going to do that, we'd be here all day. Not to try to toot my own horn, but like, the reward for me is like, if I were to kick the bucket tomorrow, the reward for me would be knowing that there would be tons of people, and I'm not talking about YouTube, but there would be tons of people in the real world outside of the internet who could say, this individual helped me when I was struggling with this. This individual, I remember Mr. Michael sat on the phone with my school for 3 hours until my financial aid package was right, because my mother didn't know how to understand or read this information or blah, blah, blah. I remember Mr. Michael taught me how to drive. I remember Mr. Michael did this, blah, blah, blah. Like, those are the rewards that you get in life. And those are the things that leave a lasting legacy. A law degree, as great as it is just a piece of paper, but what are you going to do with it? All right. And that's any degree, whether it's your doctorate or whatever it is. And then again, everybody, just because somebody doesn't have a terminal degree or an undergraduate degree or an associate's or even a diploma, doesn't mean that all of a sudden they should not be looked at as a human being and that their viewpoint should not be valued. Because you can learn a whole lot from people who never stepped foot in the classroom. Anyway, this has been such a long video. My bad, y'all, but listen, we needed to catch up. We'll catch up, and I'm out. Subscribe. Open up your eyes to see the sun, the night, show it a dance, begun with just a shimmer of time.